no church. And that is the reason why we must concentrate on the management of human resources. That is number one aspect of the management of study of the church administration and management. There is no how you can manage a church without understanding these three aspects of church management. Number one, as I've said, human resources management. Number two, financial resources management. And number three is the physical or material resources. These three aspects must be well understood, and the church leaders must understand how well to manage these three aspects for the church to actually achieve God's given vision and the goal of the church. As I've said, the prudent use of the human resources and material resources of the church is what we call the church management and administration. If we understand how to use human resources perfectly, then the human resources that is well utilized and well used in the church will provide the financial resources of the church. So without human resources, the church will not be able to be well financed. There will be no money in the church in the absence of human resources, because it is the human resources that will provide money to the church. They will contribute offering, contribute tithes, pay tithes, and other special donations like building fund and so on and so forth. So without, you can see that human resources is very, very important in the management of the church. Without human resources, there is no church, and there will be no financial resources. That is the second aspect of the church administration and management, because it is these same human resources that will provide us with financial resources. So when human resources are well managed, it is these same human resources that will manage the financial resources of the church for the leader, because the leader is designed not to take care of everything in this church. And that is where I'm going to about the delegation strategy in the church under the administration and management of human resources. If human resources are not well managed, then the financial resources of the church will not be able to be well managed. So because it is the member of the church, the human resources, that will be appointed as the financial secretary, financial treasury secretary of the church, or whatsoever you call it in your denomination. So, but as far as my knowledge can carry me, if those human resources are not well managed, then the financial resources of the church will not be well utilized. But when the human resources are well managed, the financial resources of the church will be well utilized, managed, and used adequately, prudently. So number two, that's financial resources of the church. The lead pastor must understand that there are key area factors that the leadership of the church must understand in the financial resources, managing the financial resources of the church. As I've said, number one thing, one of those things that the lead pastor, the pastor must understand in that financial resources management of the church is that there must be a clear separation between the personal accounts of the pastor and the church. You need to separate it. Yes, there must be clear separation between your personal accounts and the accounts of the church in order to give adequate report, adequate financial report. So the lead pastor must separate the his own personal account and the church account. Number two that we need to understand in that management, in the management of the financial resources of the church, is that we must not place money above the spiritual activities of the church. Every church leader must understand this, that you should not place money above the spiritual aspects of the church. So there must be a clear separate between the financial aspect of the church and the spiritual aspect of the church. Though the leader is both administrative leader and spiritual leader of the church, is both administrative and spiritual leadership of the church, nevertheless there must be cut separate between the personal account of the pastor and of that church. And secondly, as I've mentioned, we must understand the position of finance in the church. We must not place money above the spirituality of the church, because the church is the spiritual entity, is a spiritual entity. So we must understand this as a leader, as a young pastor, as a young leader in the church. And number three of that financial management of the church is that there must be a separate body that will be managing the financial aspects of the church. There must be separate body. That means to say the leadership of the church should appoint somebody in charge of the financial aspects of the church, finance of the church. So we must understand that the lead pastor should not be the one that will also be the accountant of the church. Even though if you read accountants while in school, that does not give you room to be the accountant for the church you are leading. Let there be church accountants. Appoint church financial secretary and treasury secretary, or appoint somebody else to take that role on your behalf and give you adequate reports, maybe monthly reports or annual report during the church AGM. So such reports should be announced to the church and to the pastor, and under the supervision of the lead pastor. These are the three things I can just mention now in the financial resources management of the church. Then the third one is the physical resources management. Physical resources, as I've said, when the church has money, the church will use the money to possess material resources, physical resources. The church can buy land, they can buy instruments and other gadgets in the church. Those gadgets are made up of physical or material resources of the church, and all these physical and material resources of the church must be purchased in the name of the church, because the church, as I've said, is an entity on its own. The church is an entity on its own. Therefore, all the physical resources of the church, the material resources must be purchased in the name of the church. And this is the beginning of the management of the physical resources of the church. And secondly, under the physical resources management of the church must appoint somebody who will be responsible for the maintenance of the physical and material resources of such organization, church. Somebody must be held responsible for the management and maintenance. So, in Nigeria, we don't have maintenance culture. But we have repair culture. We love to repair things rather than to maintain those things to be well used and ready for the service. So somebody in the church must be appointed as the manager of the physical and material resources of the church, and that person must be held responsible for that particular area. So, and we must, the church leader, let me say, the church leader must utilize those resources adequately.